Okay, now we have a number 4 charger port wire coming from the controller. This is going to go to the charger port connection inside the scooter. And so this is the existing wire inside the scooter that goes to the charger. So we'll plug it in. Alright, let's see what we got left to do. Okay, there is one wire coming out of the controller. It does not have a number on it, probably because it's not used very much, but it does say brake lights on it. This scooter does not have brake lights, so this is just an extra wire, and I guess if you ever put brake lights on it, you could hook it up to this wire, but it's not necessary, so we'll just leave it open. So it appears that there's just a couple of more connections to make from the controller here. This one is the number 3 wire. It goes to the motor. It says motor on here. And the other one is the number 5 wire, and it goes to the battery. So we'll take the number 3 motor wire, which actually goes to the motor back here, and you can see that wire coming up through here and coming out right there. So we'll take that wire and the controller wire, snap them together. Now we've only got one wire to go. Looks like we're down to the last wire coming out of the controller, and that is wire number 5 goes to the battery. So here's the battery wire over here. Connect these two together. And theoretically, we should be set. Now the problem is getting all that stuff inside there. It's not going to be easy. Let's see what we can do. Alright, now that we got all these wires connected and accounted for, let's see if we can stick them back in there and make them fit. Well, one thing I discovered was that getting all of this stuff back into the scooter in the front area is very difficult, and you really need a little more room than they've provided. So what you need to do is go to the back side, and as you can see, there's a little more room on the back side, maybe 3/4 of an inch or so, and we need to move those batteries back to make more room for all this stuff up front. The only problem is, hold on, when I take this battery out of here, you can see when I take this battery out of here, you can see there's a couple of plastic stops here and here that are holding this battery forward. So we need to break those stops off so those batteries can move back another 3/4 of an inch. So let's do that. Okay, if I grab a hold of them, I think I can just pull them and they'll pop right off. Okay, there's one side. Let's get the other side. Okay. And I got both of them down far enough for that battery to sit back down and push backwards. There we go. So now you can see there's a little space in between the two batteries, and I can just take the front battery and push it backwards, and that gave me more room up front. Okay, the first thing I'm going to take care of is put this clamp right here back on this connection down here, and that clamp actually holds these two wires coming from the handlebars. They come in here, and so I'm going to put that clamp back on and get that out of the way, because that's one of the first things that's going to be covered up once I start putting those wires back in. So I'll just get this started. There we go. And then just put these wires in place and clamp it down. There we go. Okay, the next thing to do after tightening these two screws is to put this little grommet over the wire here, and also putting this little slide door and sliding it down over the wire as well, to kind of block this area from getting any water or debris or whatever inside the scooter. So we'll do that. Okay, now I've got the little rubber grommet around the wire. All I got to do is put on this little trap door, and the short end goes on the right side, long end goes on the left side. Alright, that's all nice and tight in there. We can go on. Alright, so let's go over what we've done so far. Well, at least in regards to the controller. Alright, the controller has been hooked up to all of the wires that are available to hook up to, except the battery. I'm leaving that battery wire to hook up to last, because we don't want take any chance of shortening anything out. So the very last thing I'm going to do is hook up that battery wire. And again, this wire here is not used in this particular scooter because it's a brake light wire, and this scooter does not have a brake light, so we're just going to leave it the way it is. Now the hardest thing, I think, to do is what we're going to do now, and that is stick all of this stuff down inside here and make it fit so we can get the flooring back on the scooter. So there's really any rhyme or reason to this, except that try and make as much room as you can. Stick the small stuff down in little cubby holes if you can, and save the big stuff for the top and flatten it out. Now, one of the things I need to make sure you know, or you understand, is that there's only one way that this controller can go in here now, and that's like this. I'm not sure what the purpose of this lip is, other than to maybe sit on top of here, but it's kind of in the way of these wires, so I would actually prefer that it wasn't even there. But since it is, we're going to put it down in there and see what we can do. Alright, now when I put this down in here, I don't know if you can see this, let me see if I can point it out, but this wire coming from the battery that's connected right here is actually in the way of this little lip here. The lip doesn't allow the lip to go down, if you can see that. So what I did on the other one, and I'm going to do on this one, is I'm going to take this wire off and turn it upside down so this lip can seat down here better than what it's trying to do right now, because what it's trying to do right now is to stop this from seating in the place it needs to be seated. Alright, so let's do that. So now that I got that disconnected, I'm going to bring it up and basically turn it upside down like this, and then connect it like that. Okay, so now that it's upside down, I'll just put it back on here, slide it in, and that should have helped make a little room for this controller. There. Now, as you can see, the controller sits down flat and this wire is no longer in the way. So that's one of the things you might have to do, I would suggest do anyway. Okay, now it's time to start tucking all these wires in places, any place you can find to tuck them. I think what I'm going to do first though is disconnect this other battery wire, because it's kind of in the way of tucking these wires down inside there. So this is going to be on top anyway, or over to the side, so I'm just going to disconnect it, get it out of the way. This wire actually is the one that goes to the motor on the rear wheel. Alright, so now that we got this wire out of the way, let's see if we can start tucking some of this stuff in places where it'll be out of the way. This one here, and there's no rhyme or reason to finding places for it to hide. As I said before, just do whatever you need to do to get it out of the way. Okay, so rather than spend a lot of video time trying to find 100 different ways to stuff all of those wires down in there, I just experimented for 5 or 10 minutes, found the best spots to place them, and now they're pretty much in there. And I'm sure you can find another way to do it as well, but there's enough room in there to actually allow those wires to go down. Now that we made room back here at the rear and push that up against the wall, there is room for these wires up front. So now all I got left to do, as far as this base goes, is put the flooring back on it. This part will be through, and then we can work on the wires coming out of the bottom of the scooter and going up to the handlebars. I'll show you how I did those. Now that everything's kind of tucked away where it should be, we can put this strap back on to hold everything in place. So alright, so now we got the strap back on, holding the batteries and all that wiring in place. Now we can put the flooring on.